Good morning, everyone. I would like to call the Senate Committee on Rules to order. The clerk would stop messing up over there. Would you please call the roll? I'm not working over here.
Okay. You have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Good morning, and we will go directly into our docket because we have to move very quickly this morning. We will start with the bills that we did not get to last week, beginning with HJ 578, Delegate Price. If you will come into our room and present HJ 578.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. House Joint Resolution 578 is a recommendation of the Deeds Commission, and it would direct the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services to assess the feasibility in establishing a database that combines information from criminal justice, behavioral health, and human services agencies for the purposes of evaluating the effectiveness of existing interventions and facilitate the development of new interventions to improve outcomes. The department testified at our last Deeds Commission meeting that they are able and willing to carry out this work group, and they have since communicated that no additional appropriation is needed. So I hope it would be the pleasure of the committee to move House Joint Resolution 578 forward.
Thank you, Delegate Price. Are there any questions from the committee?
Madam Chair, I move to report.
It's been moved and seconded that House Joint Resolution 578 be reported. Before we do that, do we have anyone wishing to speak on this resolution?
Madam Chair, we have one hand raised.
We can have that person speak, and if you would do so in 1 minute or less, that would be greatly appreciated.
Lori Haas, please unmute and go ahead.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Lori Haas. I'm with the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence. This is an important bill. Dr. Bonney works with us. Evidence-based best practices can only be gained by getting that evidence and establishing a work group that can share information across jurisdiction, across agencies makes utmost sense. We want to get to equitable solutions for some of the problems facing our citizens in the Commonwealth, and we support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lori. We have a motion to report HJ 578. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you, Delegate Price. HJ 578 is reported.
Thank you.
We will now move to House Bill 1789. Delegate McNamara.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 1789 extends from 3 months to 5 months the period of time following year end for certain commissions and authorities to file an audit with the Auditor of Public Accounts. The bill is filed at the request of the Virginia Association of Planning District Commissions. Currently, a planning district commission in your geography has until September 30th to wrap up their June 30 year end, complete adjusting entries, prepare their audit, have external auditors perform on-site examinations, complete an audit, present it to an unelected governing body for approval, and submit to the auditor. What that means is, in all likelihood, your planning commission and others did not make their deadline. This bill aligns the code to what practically can be achieved. I would say the legislation, when it was introduced, I was unaware there were any potential legislation benefactors that were generating audits that were included in the Commonwealth's comprehensive annual report. David Mull, our state controller, expressed some concern that they would impact some of that reporting. So we did make the amendment. Mr. Mull, Ms. Ramey may be available, and David Blunt from the Virginia Association of Counties. But we did modify the bill. As I know it, there is no opposition for the bill, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there any questions to the delegate from the committee? Anyone in queue to speak?
Yes, Madam Chair. First, we have David Blount.
How many speakers do we have?
He is the only speaker at this time.
Okay, if you could make your remarks in a minute or so.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. David Blunt, on behalf of the Virginia Association of Planning District Commissions. Appreciate Delegate McNamara bringing this bill forward at our request. I think he did a great job of explaining what we were trying to accomplish. This really just came about as a result of some discussion that the PDCs were having with the APA representatives last fall as they were seeking to, I guess, get around and educate some of these entities about the need for complying with this section of code. And we were able to bring their attention the challenges that the delegate had explained. So we're support of the bill and would ask you to report it out of committee this morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. We have HB 1789 before us. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that HB 1789 be reported. All in favor, please record your vote. Ayes are 10, noes are 0. House Bill 1789 is reported.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate. We will now move to HB 1990, Delegate Aird. And Delegate Aird, you actually have 3 pieces of legislation, and I would like for you to go ahead and do all of them since you have those 3. So just do all 3.
Great. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. House Bill 1990, Madam Chair, is legislation that will allow the chair of the House Committee for Courts and the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee to request up to 5 bills receive a racial and ethnic impact statement conducted by JLARC each legislative session. We worked directly with JLARC and working on this language to make this possible. Essentially, the intent of the bill is to ensure that any legislation that is coming out of those 2 committees do not have adverse impacts on Black and Brown communities throughout the Commonwealth. This gives us an opportunity to be deliberate about the policy that we are passing and to have great clarity around the impact that it will have once it's passed, which is oftentimes harder to undo once it has moved forward. This legislation started out with a fiscal impact statement, but in working with JLARC, we understand that they are able to take on this work with their existing staff and resources. And so I hope it would be the pleasure of the committee to move the legislation forward.
Are there any questions to the delegate regarding HB 1990?
Madam Chair.
Senator Deeds.
Delegate Aird, I support the legislation, but I'm wondering on line 24 and line 25, 3 requests can be made by the House and only 2 from the Senate. Is that correct? Is it your intent to create that disparity between the bodies?
Excuse me, Senator Deeds, I'm sorry, let me get the bill up in front of me, but I thought that it was equal, so let me just double check. Let's see, you said line 24.
Well, line 24 says that no more than 3 can be requested by the chair of the House committee. Line 25 says no more than 2 can be requested by the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee.
It's not my intent to make that disparity, and I'd be open to a friendly amendment, Madam Chair, to clean that up.
There's a motion to
Have 3 apiece.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that it be amended to indicate 3 studies each. All in favor of that amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that amendment has been made. Are there any other questions? Do we have anyone in the queue to speak?
Madam Chair, there are 3 members of the public in the queue.
Okay, well, each person who is in the queue to speak, if you would do so at 1 minute each, please.
First, we have Faith Harris.
I'm here to speak on a different bill of Delegate Aird's.
Next, we have Ashley Kenneth.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members. My name is Ashley Kenneth, and I'm with the Commonwealth Institute. I was also asked by LEJC to mention their support for the bill. Just as we assess impacts to our state budget with fiscal impact statements, we should also assess impacts to people in our state. With this legislation, Virginia will join at least 7 other states in creating and using a tool that will help enact criminal justice policy that will not worsen
worsen racial disparities. It's a critical step toward building a Virginia that truly works for all of us, and we ask that you support it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We have Kenneth Gilliam and followed lastly by Anna Scholl.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Kenneth Gilliam with New Virginia Majority, and we strongly support this bill. And I'd like to, for brevity's sake, I would like to line my comments with Ashley Kenneth for the Commonwealth Institute, and would also like to thank Delegate Ayer for carrying this important piece of legislation again this year. So thank you all so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Anna Scholl with Progress Virginia. We also strongly support the legislation and greatly appreciate Delegate Ayer bringing it again this year. Align ourselves with the comments as well from Ashley at the Commonwealth Institute and urge you to support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we have one last hand raised from Leah Jones.
Hello, my name is Leah Jones. I'm speaking on behalf of HJ 538. I'm the Faith Community Outreach Coordinator at Virginia Interfaith Power and Light, and we are people of faith collaborating to grow healthy communities and advance climate justice through education, advocacy, and worship.
Excuse me, the bill before us is HB 1990.
Oh, sorry about that.
No problem.
Madam Chair, there are no more speakers in the queue.
Okay, we have HB 1990 before us.
Move to report as amended.
Can we get a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded that HB 1990 be reported as amended. All those in favor, please indicate. Ayes are 10, noes 2. That bill is reported, Delegate Ayer. If you could go to your second one, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll present House Joint Resolution 537 next. Madam Chair, this resolution would recognize racism as a public health crisis. Madam Chair and members of the committee, as you know, the American Public Health Association defines racism alive and well amongst our structurals and institutions and foundational systems here, both in our country and in our systems that impact people's day-to-day lives. Acknowledging racism as a public health crisis is an important first step that we can take to really assess our structures here in the Commonwealth and how we can revise our policies and systems through racial and ethnic and equitable lenses. And so there are 5 very specific foundational recommendations that are listed in the resolution to try and move us on a path forward. And so I hope that it will be the pleasure of this committee to move the resolution onto the Senate for a full vote.
Are there any questions to the delegate regarding HJ 537? Are there speakers?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have a number of hands raised.
How many?
4 so far.
Okay, if you could keep your comments to a minute, please.
First, we have Chloe Edwards.
Hello, good morning. My name is Chloe Edwards with Voices. Over 55 organizations and 285 individuals across the state expressed support of this specific resolution. Despite the progress for civil rights, being a person of color in this country can have a negative health consequence and even a death sentence, as we witnessed during this pandemic. 5 states and over 150 local governments have made declarations to explicitly address racism. However, none in the South. Virginia has the opportunity to lead the country into a new era in which everyone has access to this nation's fundamental values of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Solidarity occurs when the entire community stands alongside those who experience injustice. For this purpose, we stand together with hopes that it will be the pleasure of the committee to vote in support of this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chelsea Bennett, please go ahead.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Chelsea Bennett with the American Heart Association. Last year, the American Heart Association nationally released a presidential advisory which declared structural racism a cause of poor health and premature death from heart disease and stroke. We support Delegate Ayer's joint resolution, and we ask for your support as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rupa Murthy.
Yes, good morning. I'm with the YWCA Richmond, and we support this resolution. We've been living into our mission to eliminate racism and empower women for 133 years here in this region, and also with our sister agencies, YWCA Southampton Roads and YWCA Central Virginia and Lynchburg. We specifically wanted to just take note of the number of Black and Brown women who make up the low-wage workforce here in the Commonwealth. And today, facing a pandemic, we know that they make up nearly 100% of job losses for December, January, and February. And so we ask that you take action to move this resolution forward. We need to move from protest to policy, and this resolution helps us do that. I'll give you one quick story. We run domestic violence crisis hotline. Excuse me?
You have 7 seconds.
We run a domestic crisis hotline, and recently had a call. A woman called, leaving her abuser, said, please don't call.
Okay, your time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, the last speaker is Kenneth Gilliam.
Good morning again, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Kenneth Gilliam, New Virginia Majority. We strongly support the bill and align my comments with the previous speakers. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Does that exhaust the speakers?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, we have HJ 537. Any additional comments, Delegate Aird?
No, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, I move to report HJ 537.
It's been moved and seconded that HJ 537 be reported. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that's reported. Delegate Aird, you now have HJ 538.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, there is a substitute, I believe, for this resolution.
Okay, can we have a motion on the substitute? Moved and seconded that the substitute be adopted. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We have the substitute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, the substitute simply adds additional clarity that the resolution is not binding in nature. We did hear from one of our state agencies that just wanted to make sure that there was no confusion around that. This resolution ultimately also declares that access to water is a human right. And furthermore, it lays the foundation to the approach that we can take here in the Commonwealth to ensure that individuals, and the declaration that individuals should have access to clean, potable, and affordable water. I think we've saw through this pandemic how critical access to water is and will continue to be as we try to move through the current circumstances in our society. And so this resolution is affirming that, and I hope the committee will move it forward.
Any questions to the delegate regarding HJ 538?
I just have a comment, Madam Chair.
Yes, Senator Howell.
I remember many years ago when we had a constitutional amendment to the right, a constitutional amendment for the right to hunt and fish in Virginia. And I said we should have also, if we did that, a constitutional right to food and shelter. And so I must say I'm very much in favor of this resolution. Thank you.
Any further comments? Do we have any speakers with regard to HJ 538?
Madam Chair, we have 4 speakers in the queue.
Okay, thank you. And if you could, again, keep your comments to 1 minute, that would be greatly appreciated.
Leah Jones, please go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Me again, Leah Jones from Virginia Interfaith Power and Light. We are also in favor of HJ 538. Just like to point out that protecting and declaring water a basic human right becomes especially important when we look at the fact that the majority of households in 60 of Virginia's 95 counties rely on private wells. In total, there are more than 1 million households in Virginia using private wells. This means that groundwater and freshwater resources must be protected from various pollutants that seep into the ground from industrial use. So definitely in favor of HJ 538. Thank you.
Thank you.
Faith Harris.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Delegate Aird, Senators. Thank you so much for an opportunity to support this bill. We recognize that it is non-binding, but we're hopeful that it will raise the narrative and conversation for legislators to begin to think more deeply about their role in protecting Virginia's resources and particularly keeping water safe and accessible and affordable for people of color, particularly Black people, brown people, and people who are living on the margins. We recognize with this pandemic how important water is to our hygiene, and it can actually save lives. And so as we continue to think about all the ways that we can bring justice to residents in Virginia, this is a wonderful resolution that will help let all of us think about water and this resource, precious resource, in a new way. So thank you for the opportunity to speak, and we support this legislation.
Thank you so much.
Jolene Mafnas.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, my name is Jolie Moffinas. I'm the Virginia organizer of Food and Water Watch, and on behalf of Food and Water Watch's 28,000 members in Virginia, we want to encourage the favorable passage of Delegate Aird's HJ 538, declaring water as a human right in Virginia. Leah and Faith mentioned a lot of the water scarcity issues that have been worsened by the pandemic, as well as the racial inequities to water access. So I just want to highlight another point is that during the special session, the General Assembly tackled the issue of water shutoffs in the state as COVID-19 continues to devastate our state and nation. But we must also keep our eyes on the looming water crisis and what the future may hold if we don't act now. Some private water companies see an opportunity in the fiscal distress municipalities are now facing as a chance to flip the public interest doctrine that has ensured water is a public good. Just a few months ago, a new trading market for the exchange of water was launched that sees water as a commodity that can be traded for profit. If this takes root, access to water
Could you
could well be
conclude your
determined.
remarks, please?
Will be determined by market forces, and control of water resources turned over to private interests. So the passing of this HJ 538 is really important to highlight how water should not be a commodity. Thank you.
Thank you.
And once again, we have Kenneth Gilliam.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, again, Kenneth Gilliam, New Virginia Majority, and we strongly support this bill. We'd like to thank Delegate Aird for all the piece of legislation that she had this morning before this committee. We believe that they all make Virginia stronger and more equitable for all of us. So thank you all for your time, and thank you, Delegate Aird.
Madam Chair, there are no more hands raised.
Thank you very much. Any further remarks from you, Delegate Aird?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, we have HJ 538 before us.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that HJ 538 be reported. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Did you get your nose? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Delegate Aird.
Thank the committee.
Okay, we will now go to, I want to take up several pieces in a block. Some are identical, and then there are some designation, recognitions, and commendations. If there are some that you want to take out of the block, please so indicate. HJ 525 from Delegate Ward is the National Statuary Hall Collection at the United States Capitol. The Barbara Rose Johns statue, which is identical to SJ 288, Senator Lucas's resolution. Also, HJ 562 from Delegate Mayeris, International Overdose Awareness Day. HJ 583 from Delegate Bagby, Liberty Amendments Month, which is identical to SJ 323, which was my resolution, which passed the Senate unanimously. HJ 596 from Delegate Goditis, Brain Aneurysm Awareness Month. HJ 605, Victims of COVID-19 Remembrance Day, which passed the House unanimously. HJ 606 from Delegate Converse Fowlers, Equal Citizens Month, which also passed the House unanimously. If we could take those in a block. It's been moved and seconded that we take those resolutions in a block. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, those are taken, those are passed in a block. We will now go back to HJ 563, Delegate Watts.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. 563 is brought before you as a House Joint Resolution, as a commitment that got a little bit off track, if you will, last year. As chair of House Finance Committee, I understand I have the prerogative to set up a working group. And I did at the end of the last session, and then COVID came. But nevertheless, the interest in how we tax corporations and their liability to the Commonwealth of Virginia when they operate in multi-states is an issue that has a great interest amongst the corporate community. Both from those who are used to, as I hold up this pattern of the states, all those that are in blue are the 29 states that have combined reporting, where you look at the total liability of all operations. The other states, Virginia being one of them, have different forms of apportioning liability, but basically unitary. The complexity of this has come through to me as I have spoken individually to a number of corporations, Anheuser-Busch, Newport News Shipbuilding, Volvo. I could go on and hate to miss one. We have all agreed that this is a complex issue, and therefore I am bringing forward House Joint Resolution as a public commitment of transparency to follow through on this needed review, not just the administration of it, if it were just a tax study, but also how this might affect Virginia's competitive situation as far as economic development, as well as revenue issues. As you see, I have indicated reflecting what I regard to be a wonderful long-term working relationship with the chairman of House Appropriations and Finance. I think I just said it backwards, my apologies, to make sure that the makeup of this group is reflective of all the various corporations as their tax status differs in Virginia as we move forward to see what the responsible action is in this area. I would hope it would be the pleasure of the Senate Rules Committee to endorse this needed look at our corporate tax posture.
Are there any questions to Delegate Watts on HJ 563?
Madam Chairman?
Yes, Senator Howe.
Just a brief comment. I think this would be very helpful to the initiative we have to have a joint tax policy committee working on some of these issues, and this information would be very useful to us.
Thank you. Do we have any speakers?
Madam Chair, there are no speakers at this time.
Okay, we have HJ 563.
I move to report HJ 563.
Do we have a second? It's been moved and seconded that HJ 563 be reported. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you, Delegate Watts. HJ 563 is reported.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay, we'll now go to HB 2208, Delegate Jones.
Good morning, Madam Chair. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Madam Chair, members of the committee, House Bill 2208 authorizes the Department of General Services to remove the Harry Byrd statue from Capitol Square and store it until the General Assembly figures out what we would like to do with it. I'm sure everybody is familiar with Harry Byrd and his legacy of segregation and massive resistance that prevented people like my parents from going to public school in Virginia for several years. And I believe that this is no way to honor somebody who has a history of that nature and shouldn't be put in our public spaces. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And I do believe we have speakers in support of this bill.
Do we have any questions to Delegate Jones?
I've got a question.
Senator Deeds.
Delegate Jones, you can say that about just about every Virginia politician that existed before 1960. Harry Byrd created the Virginia Department of Highways, which began the modernization of our economy. There's still Confederate monuments on the square, and there are also monuments to people that owned other people, like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. How come Harry Byrd is the first one of those that you've chosen to take down?
Well, Senator Deeds, I would say that first, several of the folks that you referenced are not necessarily under our control as a General Assembly. And so we have purview over this statute. And so that's part of the reason why I put this in. Second, I think it's part of a full examination of our history. Yes, we have black marks, we've got challenges, we've got struggles. But I think, and I will tell you from my personal experience, and you may know this because I remember being up here as a child with my father when you guys were seatmates, and I asked him who this man was, and having him to explain to me who Harry Byrd was and what he did and all the things that he did to keep black people as second-class citizens or worse really is not, I think, a legacy that we want to highlight at all, but particularly in our Capitol Square. Yes, he was a figure who we can't avoid, but I certainly do believe that as we have faced this moment of racial reckoning over 2020 and beyond, this is a start. It's a start, and it's a symbol, and it's something that to a lot of Black Virginians shouldn't be there in the first place.
Madam Chair.
Senator Deeds.
Delegate Jones, I don't disagree that he was a segregationist, he was a racist, but that applies to most Virginia politicians who were in office prior to 1960. Don't you agree with me that Thomas Jefferson, Patrick Henry, George Washington, others who owned other people left us a different sort of legacy that we can't be proud of either?
Senator Deeds, I'm not necessarily proud of the legacy of folks who owned anybody. Obviously, for me, slavery is abhorrent. But I would say that Harry Byrd didn't write the Declaration of Independence, and Harry Byrd wasn't the first president of the United States. I think it's comparing apples and oranges in a sense. Again, I don't think we have control over Jefferson and Washington as a General Assembly as they stand in the Capitol. Would love to see folks sort of reassess and recontextualize those figures if they choose. But to me and to a lot of folks, Harry Byrd is incredibly visceral. Organizing massive resistance after Brown versus Board of Education, the Byrd machine and the relics that we still have in our systems today that are full-on voter suppression, whether it's May elections or off-year elections, still contribute to having some inequities in our system and so in our polity. And so for me, this is an important step. And frankly, walking by him before COVID each and every day in the Capitol was very, very difficult, or outside of the Capitol was very difficult for me and so many others.
Well, Madam Chair.
Senator Law.
Senator Deeds.
If the General Assembly does not have control of the statute of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson that are on the square, who has that authority?
Madam Chair, I would say to Senator Deeds that I do believe there's the Speaker of the House has certain control and dominion over things. I do believe there's a joint committee or commission that has control over certain of these statues in and around the Capitol. It is my understanding that we do have dominion over the Harry Byrd statue, and that's why this legislation is here.
Okay, we're not going to keep this a running debate. Yes, Senator Sasslaw.
There's a little bit of difference here when you name George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. The slavery, and this by no means, of course, condones it, was something that existed over a large part of the country. And it was, about 150, 200 years ago or longer. And we're talking about an individual who as late as 1957, which is a little bit different than something that happened 200 years ago, as late as 1957, and 3 years after Brown versus the Board of Education, essentially implemented a policy or drove a policy. He was in the U.S. Senate then, drove a policy that essentially would have, had it allowed to exist, would have kept us where we were a couple hundred years ago. And one of the people who, suffered as a result of that is in this room. And I think there is quite a difference between, Byrd and Washington, who were heavily involved in the founding of the country, than what you have with the case of Harry Byrd. I've never understood the the statute out there. I mean, I did understand. I remember the General Assembly was different, but I can't disagree with what Delegate Jones is saying or attempting to do.
Do we have any speakers on this bill?
Madam Chair, currently we have 2 hands raised.
Okay, let's go to the speakers, and if you could keep your remarks to a minute, please.
Rita Davis.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm Rita Davis, counsel to the governor, and I speak on behalf of the administration in support of the bill. In response to Brown v. Board of Education, Mr. Byrd suggested if we can organize Southern states for massive resistance to this order, I think in time the rest of the country will realize that racial integration is not going to be accepted in the South. Mr. Byrd actively worked against the rule of law as set out by the Supreme Court in order to keep African Americans from voting, from being educated, and from being heard in the political system. If Mr. Byrd had had his way, I would never be sitting before you. If he'd had his way, certain members of the General Assembly wouldn't be able to serve because they are not white. Mr. Byrd worked strenuously to prevent us, people of color, from participating in the political machine. How can the Commonwealth continue to venerate Mr. Byrd and in the same breath say to children of color in the Commonwealth that we are committed to your success?
Davis, if you could wrap up your remarks, please.
Yes, ma'am. And you are important in matter. In short, it cannot, and for those reasons, the administration supports the bill. Thank you to Delegate Jones for carrying it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next, we have Robert Lamb. Robert, please unmute and go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear
Hello?
you. We can hear you.
Okay. All right, thank you. I am opposed to this bill. I think Harry Byrd was the most consequential governor and politician in Virginia in the 20th century. You have to look at the whole man. He transformed government when he was governor. He put Virginia on a very strong fiscal basis. He was a strong supporter of national defense. He was so regarded by the politicians of both parties that went late in his career when he almost decided not to run for re-election. The legislators of both parties, Republican and Democrat, petitioned him to run again. He was a founder of our state park system, the Shenandoah National Park, Blue Ridge Parkway, and the Skyline Drive. I think he was a very dignified man, and you have to look at the whole man. I view this bill as just an attempt by a product of the apostles.
Could you wrap
of
up
the
your remarks,
counterculture.
please?
Yes, I view this as an effort of the counterculture, of the culture to counsel things. Bill should be PBI.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Birdie Jameson.
Good morning. I am here to speak strong support of this. I am speaking in my own, as an individual citizen who went through segregation as a young child and have continued to face and look at inequities. I am a member of the Governor's Commission to Examine Racial Inequity in Virginia Law, and Harry Byrd was definitely the person who set up massive resistance. And we need to look towards massive resilience for this state. So I speak in support of, strong support of this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, there are no other hands raised at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any remarks to wrap up your bill, Delegate Jones?
Madam Chair, I would just say that the bill directs DGS to store it, and so until the General Assembly figures out what we want to do with it. So this is not some sort of destruction of the statute. If we want to contextualize it later, I think that's fine, but it has no place in Capitol Square, and I'd ask the committee to look favorably upon the bill.
Senator Howell, there is a fiscal impact.
If it gets out of this committee, it does not need to go to finance.
Okay, thank you.
I can't see now.
Okay, we have HB 2208. What is your pleasure?
Madam President?
Yes, Senator Lucas.
Yes, Madam Chair. I'd like to move that the bill be reported. I was going to make some other statements, but I think that's been pretty well covered.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that HB 2208 be reported. Please indicate your preference on your electronic.
Okay, page, let me see if I can't find it. I'm gonna have to go out and rejoin.
Ayes are 11, noes are 0. HB 2208 has been reported. Thank you, Delegate Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee.
Okay, we will now move to HJ 579, which is an appointment by the Speaker of the House of Delegates. We are confirming an appointment to the Virginia Commonwealth University Health System Authority Board of Directors.
Want just a motion?
We
Madam
just
Chair?
need a motion, yes.
Okay, I move that we go ahead and report HJ 579.
Okay, and this will be a recorded vote since it is an appointment. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we confirm that appointment. And again, this is a recorded vote. Ayes are 12, noes are 0. This HJ 579 is reported. We will now move to HJ 604, which is confirming the appointment of Hal E. Greer as the Director of JLARC. We need a motion.
Madam Chairman? McDougall over here.
Yes.
Maybe this is a little editorializing. I think it's great to see this appointment here. I would hope at some point we could have a conversation of what the Senate is going to do to confirm Amigo Wade as the Director of Legislative Services. He's been in that position for over a year. I realize that joint rules is not met, but Madam Chairman, it seems to me that we need to address that, and if the House is unwilling to go forward with us, then we should take some steps to go forward. And I saw this appointment here and thought it was an appropriate time to bring that comment up.
Thank you very much for that comment. Okay, the motion is to report HJ 604. This is also a recorded vote. Ayes are 12, noes are 0. HJ 604 has been reported. We will now move to HJ 572, Delegate McQuinn.
Good morning, Madam Chair, and good morning, members of the committee. May I speak to the bill?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House J 572 is the recognition of the Wolf Creek Cherokee Tribe of Virginia. These members of the Wolf Creek Cherokee Tribe of Virginia are family of Cherokee Native Americans who have deep-rooted history in Virginia. They've been identified as Cherokee by other Virginia tribes and entities with whom they have been associated. In 2021, we see that they are finally we are respecting all types of person, no matter their race, gender, culture, religion, or language. And so we know that all Virginia tribes are not alike and that no person has a right, again, to pass judgment on one another. And I've said that because in trying to help support them and help to get to a certain point, I realized that there have been some opposition. But I wanted to say that the Wolf Creek tribe have responded to everything asked of them. Personally, from a personal perspective, I felt that they have been failed in terms of getting the support that they need to afford them to be recognized. I feel that administratively they have been overlooked even by the Virginia Indian Advisory Board. The board has not met since 2008. But there was an unclear understanding that there was a letter of intent from this group. And so I have looked at, and in some ways have been even offended by those who have stepped in and feel that this tribe did not deserve to be recognized even after addressing, submitting, and responding to everything that have been asked of them. And so I'm asking that we would take the time now to move this process so that they could be recognized, with the understanding that legislative is not, this time, if it is approved, would not be the first time that we use this process to address the recognition of an Indian tribe. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think there are individuals who want to speak to this particular issue.
Are there questions to?
Madam Chair. Peterson.
Yes, Senator Peterson.
Okay, I'm looking at this resolution, which I find fascinating, and it says that at least at one time, the Wolf Creek Cherokee tribe's ancestors made contact with Spanish explorers in the areas of southwest Virginia near Saltville 80 years before the English explorers, which I know a little bit about this state, but I never knew that the Spanish explorers were in southwest Virginia. May explain some things. Can someone give some background on that? I find that fascinating. I don't know anything about that.
Madam Chair, Madam Chair.
Who's that?
Yeah, there was
Senator Edwards.
The article written, I forget his name, not too long ago, the last few years, about how the Spanish were down. I don't know how long do you want me to give this lecture, but down near Charleston, South Carolina, they moved up to western Tennessee, and I forget the guy's name. The general got in a fight with the Native Americans at Saltville. And and they went into Saltville and they supposedly slaughtered them. He said they killed 1,000, actually probably about 100 maybe. But I didn't know the name of the Native Americans, but it's well known that in Saltville there was a village, and the Spanish got in a fight with them. That was back in 1560, even before Roanoke Island. Sir Walter Raleigh's lost colony in North Carolina, about 15 years before that, or maybe 20 years before that. If you want to know, I can talk even at greater length if you want me to, but I doubt you want me to.
No, we don't have that much time.
I do have a question though of where are the Cherokees today? Maybe it's in the resolution. I don't know.
Delegate McQuinn, I do have a question. One of the questions that has come to me is whether or not I know you said that there has not been a meeting since 2008, but the question did come to me as to whether or not there was even an effort to go through the state process.
Yes, Madam Chair. Yes, absolutely. There was an effort to go through the state process. And I have been working with this group for the last year and communicating or trying to communicate with the administration in reference to this. And this is the only reason I'm here. This is not usually the process that I would go, but there had been a level of frustration that no one had necessarily been attentive to this group. And that's why I'm here asking and pleading for the legislative for us to do something about this. But we have Chief Price, who should be in the room, and several other individuals who can respond to additional questions as to the body and where they are and anything that may be asked in terms of this particular tribe. Thank you, Madam Chair.
First, I would like to hear from Kelly Thomason.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for having me here today. I also want to thank Delegate McQuinn for her passion and her desire to make sure all of Virginia's Native people are treated fairly and equitably and given the recognition and respect that they deserve. As you all know, I serve as the governor's liaison to Virginia's Indian tribes, and I have heard from chiefs and tribal members across the state who are concerned with this resolution being passed this year. The Indian Advisory Board was created by the General Assembly in 2016. It was created specifically to review and make recommendations on applications from groups who are seeking recognition as Virginia Indian tribes. The Wolf Creek, as Delegate McQuinn stated, has submitted a petition for state recognition. We received that just in the last year, but the board has not yet had the opportunity to review and issue a recommendation. During the past tumultuous year, unfortunately, this petition did not receive the attention it should have. I apologize for that. We did have members of the board who had resigned, and we haven't been able to reestablish that board. However, I have spoken to members, other members of the board and potential new members of the board in the last few weeks so that they can convene soon and begin to review this petition. We are all committed to having the experts and scholars designated by the General Assembly to review the Wolf Creek's petition in time so that a recommendation can be made before the next regular session. I understand Delegate McQuinn's frustrations, and I apologize for those, but we are committed to making sure that there's a formal recommendation before the next session.
Thank you. Are there any questions to Secretary Thomason?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Delegate McQuinn.
Madam Chair, may I say something, but I really want those who are here to speak. But based on my research and what I was able to go and find, at August of 2018 was the expiration dates for all of those who was a part of this advisory board. So this has not met since that particular time. And again, with the understanding that they have not necessarily, they had not met, but this individual group, again, had not been, if someone just had responded to them and helped them walk through another process, then I would clearly understand why we would need to wait, why there's a desire to wait. But again, they have responded to everything that was asked of them. And I just want to just be very clear in terms of that particular issue. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Okay, how many speakers do we have? And we don't have a whole lot of time to listen to a litany of speakers. How many speakers?
We have three, Madam Chair.
Okay, if you could keep your remarks to 1 minute or less.
First, we have Chuck Hoskin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's Chuck Hoskin. I'm the Principal Chief of the Cherokee Nation. Earlier, the gentleman asked where the Cherokees were. The Cherokees are where I am, Tahlequah, Oklahoma, which is the capital of the Cherokee Nation. In our reservation in Northeast Oklahoma, we were forcibly removed here by the government of the United States over 180 years ago. We are one of 3 federally recognized Cherokee tribes in this country. I oppose House Joint Resolution 572. It would give recognition to the Wolf Creek Tribe Incorporated, which is not a tribe. Efforts to recognize entities like that, which frankly are posing as tribes, undermine the great work of the Cherokee Nation and frankly undermine tribes across this country that are actual tribes. I would urge anyone who's interested in their Cherokee ancestry or any organization that believes it represents a
wrap up your
tribe
remarks, please.
to seek federal recognition through the process. We oppose this, and it's offensive to the Cherokee Nation. Wado.
Thank you.
Next, we have Marion Werkheiser.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Senators. My name is Marion Werkheiser. I am a partner with the law firm Cultural Heritage Partners with offices here in Richmond. I'm speaking today on behalf of all 7 of Virginia's federally recognized Native American tribes who respectfully ask you to table this bill. As Secretary Thomason explained, in 2016, the General Assembly passed HB 814, which established the Virginia Indian Advisory Board to assist the Secretary in reviewing applications seeking recognition as a Virginia Indian tribe and to make recommendations to the Secretary, the Governor, and the General Assembly. The advisory board consists of recognized tribes and takes special guidance from professional anthropologists and historians. A group calling themselves the Wolf Creek Cherokee Tribe applied a little over a year ago. During the pandemic year, the commission has not been convened to consider the application. That is not a reason to scrap, skip, or ignore the legal process already in place. We appreciate that the Secretary of the Commonwealth will work to give the application and any other applications due consideration
bring your
before the
remarks
next
to a
session.
close, please.
The 7 tribes request that the Senate Rules Committee table HJ 572 until next year. To act on it at this time would be premature and contrary to the process already established in law. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, the final speaker is Birdie Jameson.
Good morning again. I have worked very closely with Delegate McQuinn and the Wolf Creek Cherokee Indian Tribe in their quest to become recognized by the state. And they have followed the regulations as set out by the General Assembly. Their application, in fact, is on the Virginia Indian Advisory Board website, and it was on there in October of 2019. We did not have a COVID pandemic in October of 2019. I also will note that the commission has not met since 2018. And so I think it's very unfair to hold them responsible for the inactivity of the advisory board. And the advisory board is simply to make a recommendation. So it is not it is not the sole criteria to be decided upon. In addition to that, this is Virginia state recognition. It is not federal recognition. They would still have to go through.
If you could bring your remarks to a close, please.
Yes, they would have to go through a separate process to get federal recognition. So this is not federal recognition. It's this recognition from the state of Virginia. And this is an issue of equity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, that concludes the speakers.
Okay, Delegate McQuinn, if you could close out your remarks, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, that is, I'm not sure what Chief Price, if he had not been able to get in or what exactly was going on, but there were several of them who were scheduled to speak. I just ask that we would give strong consideration to this in terms of equity, in terms of just giving them their recognition as they have worked hard and have done everything again that had been requested of them. And the documentation is there. And I would appreciate, again, the committee looking favorable upon this House Joint Resolution 572. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate McQuinn. We have HJ 572.
Madam Chair.
Senator Howe.
I guess it's a parliamentary inquiry of the clerk. Is there some way we can just hold this for a year and not vote on it?
I don't think you can. No, just
No.
pass it by.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Good, Madam Chair, I have a motion. I move that the bill be reported.
Madam Chair.
Senator Peterson.
I have a substitute motion, and I'm going to move that we pass this bill by, and I'm very sympathetic. We've had this issue for years. There is a Cherokee tribe in Oklahoma, obviously, and that is what people think of when they think of the Cherokee tribe. I realize that history has been fragmented, but I do believe that if we get ahead of the federal process, it's going to be confusing for a lot of people, and I think we're best off just putting this bill aside for right now, so I move to PBI.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that HJ 572 be passed by indefinitely. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Okay, HJ 572 has been passed by indefinitely. Thank you, Delegate McQuinn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the committee.
Okay, I think that concludes our docket. Thank you all.
Good work.